What's up, Fafo Nation? This is the Fafo Podcast. I am your host, Andrew Herman. I'm just trying to figure out what to do for the next couple of days. Sort of looking at a few different things I'd like to talk about. Probably what I'm going to be talking about is all the weirdness with the Charlie Kirk assassination. As somebody who is a professional shooter, I was a designated marksman in the Navy. I'm not the best shooter in the world, but I am not a bad shooter either. So people are talking about how, this was a 142-yard shot, 142-yard shot. While I will go ahead and say that shooting between 100 and 250 yards, or 150 to 250 yards is probably the hardest. And part of that is that when you shoot a round and it comes out of your barrel, because of the rifling in the barrel, it starts to spin. Well, usually it keeps that, nice tight spin for about 150-ish yards. And then it starts to wobble a little bit because, it's still trying to figure out what it's doing. It's conscious. Like the round, it wobbles between 150 to about 250 yards. And then it hits that gyroscopic perfection right around 250-ish. And that's when it starts to carry a lot better. So for me, shooting at 200 yards was really hard. It was, my qualifications were, you do a whole course, but when you're shooting at a target that has got a hostage taker and you're just trying to shoot the target, and you're having to make a T-box shot. T-box is, all of this here. It's just basically this and this. So, and on top of that, it was a fairly high angle. It wasn't like the most extreme angles I've ever seen or shot, but high angle shooting is kind of rough. Usually when you're at a high angle, it's counterintuitive, but you have to aim either a little low or a little high of where you want to shoot, where you're trying to hit, because that, if you're shooting down, you are having to aim up a little higher. So if I was wanting to shoot center mass, I'd have to aim about sternum, clavicle height, and it would, be hitting there. I'm saying that backwards. If I'm wanting to hit center mass, I'd be shooting more to the base of his sternum. And if I'm shooting up at a higher angle, I'd be aiming up, around the clavicle, to be hitting center mass. So if you're aiming at somebody's face, and trying to hit that T-box and you're at a high angle, and you're shooting downward, you're having to aim a little lower. So you're aiming at the chin to hit them in the T-box, the fatal T, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of counterintuitive, but that is kind of the way that works. I haven't seen anything that says that Charlie Kirk was wearing, body armor. So the ricochet thing, I have no idea. If he was wearing it, that's possible. But to me, it looks like he is wearing a wired lav mic that has an earpiece, and that was wrapped around, came down, and was in his shirt. And when the round hit him, he jerked back, and that lav mic pulled and jerked the shirt. That's kind of what it looks like to me. I can't say one way or the other if he was wearing a plate carrier, a bulletproof vest or not. From what I saw, it looked like you could see his nipples through the shirt, so that kind of says that he wasn't, but I don't know. Wasn't there, wasn't part of the security detail, so I'm not real sure on that. Mostly my thought is that where this guy was supposedly at, I wasn't there, so I don't know for sure. I've just looked at several videos. There was somebody who was doing interviews, and he had a shotgun mic, where it's kind of like this. Actually, it's more like that. But everybody's saying that it sounded like he was either shooting from inside of a room or something, just because based on the sound. Well, on your cell phone, there's a limiter kind of a situation with the sensor, so it doesn't overload the microphone. So on the cell phone, it does sound like muffled. Maybe not muffled, but like doesn't sound as loud as it should, being a 30-06. The guy who had the shotgun mic, it is a much louder sound. To me, it sounded like that, it was an open air, shot, not non-suppressed or non-silenced. And yes, it is called a silencer because the guy who designed it called it a silencer. So that is why it is a silencer. It's not a suppressor. But the function of a silencer is to suppress the sound. It's really just semantics. But the way that it is, designed and named by this gentleman, I can't think of his name right off the top of my head, but it is called a silencer. So he did not use a silencer. It was open air. You can hear it, and the reverberation, because it is in a punch bowl. But the guy who had the shotgun mic, you could hear it real clear, real crisp. And there was only a little bit of reverberation that I was able to make out from it. I'm not a sound guy. I don't know all the technical stuff of sound engineers and whatnot. The only thing I can really say about it is there is some weirdness with it. The investigation to me seems weird. The FBI, trying to quiet certain parts of his personal life, more to do with like his roommate / lover, whatever he is. I don't know. That's weird to me, but I can't say one way or the other on it, because there's weirdness there. Outside of that, I wouldn't say that it looks like, a huge cover-up, but, during investigations, you don't want everything out in the media. That's just my experience. That's why, to me, I don't see a whole lot of problems with them not wanting, this guy's personal life out there. But once it was out there and that they were saying some contradictory things, it's weird. I mean, if it was already out there, own it. Just be like, yeah, you're right. Well, we were trying to keep this to our investigation and that be it. But that never happened as far as I've seen. I want to, look at things and and see like the progression. But again, I'm not one of the investigators. I don't know that. So all the internet sleuthing I can do, I do, outside of, really putting myself in the middle of that investigation like that. Yeah, which I would never do, because that's, I don't want to step on anybody's toes like that. But being in the military and being a cop in the military and, doing investigations, that's different than what was going on there. Like in my experience, I've worked with NCIS, I've worked with some FBI, like in minor capacity. There's been a lot of questions in the way that they do things. I can firmly say that most people just don't know the way that the FBI works. And that's okay, because you really shouldn't know, the entire methodology of the investigators. But when the investigation has parts that have already leaked out, things that have already come out, why wouldn't they just own that? Why wouldn't they just say, hey, yeah, this is what we're doing, and this is why certain issues are being handled the way they are? But they didn't do that. They didn't do any of that. There's, the thing with the Discord where they've got, more than 20 people that probably knew that this was going to happen, beforehand, at the very least the night before. I've heard enough stuff that like it's weird. The second shooter thing, I've looked at it from several different angles, and like just looking at, the ingress and egress, I think that the best place to do what was done was from that position. I would not be comfortable taking that shot just because I'm a decent shooter, but I wouldn't necessarily try to shoot that, especially with it being a rifle that I honestly, I don't think that he was, that great of a shot. I think he was aiming center mass and had so much adrenaline, he just flinched and missed and hit the guy, hit Charlie in the neck. That's my personal opinion, but, if I was trying to do like a T-box shot, I'd have never taken that shot. I'd have shot center mass, and that'd have been that. Unfortunately, Charlie, had passed away from this, and my deepest condolences to his family. And the fact that, Erica and the children were there, that makes things significantly worse. As somebody who has lost a child, I get that. I was present for when my son passed, and I can put myself into their position, and I can firmly say that is the worst thing you can carry with you, and it sucks. But taking any emotion out of it, which I am trying to do, I wouldn't have taken the shot that this guy took, just based on my experience and knowing that I'm an okay shooter. I'm not a great shooter, but I can shoot well. I'm an instructor. I teach people how to shoot, and I do teach a long range class. My opinion is shooting at 200 yards, that's pretty hard. Between 150 to 250, that's hard. Just because the round isn't doing exactly what you would expect it to do. I do know that you can make those shots, but you have to be pretty proficient, and you've shot a lot. Yes, I shoot prairie dogs out here at my my grandparents' ranch, and I live on the same property as them, so I set in my backyard, set up a table and a pop up, and I'll shoot prairie dogs all day, out to about 650 yards, and I'm using a rifle that is made for varmint shooting. It is an AR-15. Well, no, it's not. It's not even an AR-15. It is a M15 because AR stands for Armalite Rifle, and I have an Armalite rifle, and it is model 15. So, but I have a bull barrel, and it shoots a lot further. I'm sorry, it stays cooler, so you are able to take more shots where you're not overheating what you're doing. Or overheating the barrel while you're doing what you're doing. Sorry, my brain was already moving on to the next thing. And my dogs are sitting right here, and they're kind of whining a little. If you can hear them, I apologize. The fact is that it was not the hardest shot in the world, but it was a difficult enough shot that, like, there are several professionals that I know, we wouldn't take that shot, especially with an older rifle that it's a nice, accurate, fairly consistent rifle, but I don't know that I would be trusting that rifle the way that he did. I don't know that I would necessarily, well, first off, I wouldn't be doing that because ethically that's stupid. He was a civilian. He wasn't even really a politician. He just had political conversations with people. But taking a shot at 142 yards, pardon me, not really smart. And I mean, it is not like that a beginner could not just go out there and do it, because every one of my kids have gone out to the range. They have all shot. They are all fairly, good at shooting. There's a few of them that I'm scared of because they didn't have bad habits. To be really honest, I learned out here, shooting prairie dogs when I was a kid. And I learned a lot of bad habits, and it took me about 3 years of shooting a lot while I was in the military to, progress up and become a much better shooter, because I had to untrain bad habits I had. My kids, they don't have any bad habits. I mean, one of them does, but it was some because of video games. We played a lot of duck hunt. Outside of that, all my kids can tell you the weapons handling safety rules. They know them all. They know how to, be safe with a firearm, because as I am an instructor, I teach them. They all have certificates for completing not hunter safety, but firearm safety. My kids, I feel like my children, they are an exception. Most children out in the United States, they don't have this kind of opportunity where that they get to learn from an instructor and who is there all the time. I get that, this kid's dad was a cop, and he may have shot with him a lot. I don't know. But as far as I can tell, he's a novice shooter and took a shot that probably wasn't, the clean shot that he thought it would be. In my opinion, he missed his target and just got lucky and it did what he wanted to do at any rate. And with that, I'll talk about a little bit of the ballistics. So internal ballistics is everything from the chamber to the end of the barrel. That's internal ballistics. Then there's, you know, external ballistics where, you know, from the barrel to your target. And then there's terminal ballistics from your target to where the round stops, ultimately stops. Then there's ballistics for inside your target. I'm sure you guys have all seen the videos of where a round goes into a ballistic block and it travels through, and there's a big cavitation, and then it, you know, rebounds and it's very small. That's pretty close to what human flesh will do. It'll expand and it'll come back. So when it has a big cavitation, we call that the temporary cavity. It's a big mess. And a lot of material does go through, to wherever the round, you know, kind of comes out to, or out the backside of it. If it does, sometimes you can catch the round in the ballistic shell, but, that's usually a much slower round, more like a handgun. I have a 30-06. I hunt with it. I killed an elk last October. Actually, I think it was November. Whatever, you know, third season was in Colorado. And I only had like a couple days left to get my elk. And I shot mine from 821 yards. Oh, hush up. But I did shoot my elk at, you know, quite a distance, 821 yards. But I'm a proficient shooter. I can shoot further, you know, with confidence, and know that I'm going to make a clean kill on an animal that I'm going to eat. And, you know, I don't do the trophy hunting thing. That's not what I do. I do it to fill my freezer and eat year round. So when I'm talking about this is from experience. I have a lot of it. I'm not trying to, you know, be self-centered. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about this situation based off of the experience I have and knowing where this guy was to where his target was. And I say his target because, you know, Charlie was his target in it. I know it sounds cold, but I'm trying to think about it in a way that I'm taking most of the emotion out of it, which as a human being, I feel like that's hard to do when you know you're talking about a person, and a good person, because I believe Charlie was a good person. But taking that shot and the way things went, I'm not sure if they ever recovered the round after it passed through Charlie. I'm not sure if you know, what exactly his cause of death was, whether it was, you know, blood loss or, you know, severing his spinal column. I have no idea. That's not talked about. And as far as I know, they're not going to do a autopsy on him. For what it is. Charlie lost his life, and it's horrible. It sucks. My heart goes out to the Kirk family. As a professional shooter, you know, this kid probably missed like his target, what he was aiming at, and just got, you know, lucky on what he hit. The investigation and where it's going, you know, I'm not a part of the investigation, so I don't actually know. I have done some things investigational wise where I don't tell everybody everything. Usually the only people I tell everything to is my direct supervisor, my partner, or my chief, my you know, supervisor really is all that usually hears anything from me when I was investigating any sort of crime. I've done, I don't know, I think over the 4 years where I was, base police, I think I did 200 investigations. I don't know any of my investigations that were, I think when it came to adjudication, I think that they adjudicated 98% of all of them. I think they dropped 2, maybe 3. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. I know that every time that I was involved in an investigation, but it is the military, so the rules are different. The standard of the rules of evidence and stuff, they're different in the civilian world than they are in the military. Especially when you have things like non-judicial punishment or Article 15, whatever you want to call it. I know that the rules are very different from that to a court martial, and from a court martial to like a court of law. I don't know how different it is, like in the procedure wise, because I've never been a civilian cop. I did go to the police academy. I did pass the police academy. I did have job offers. I did have, the ability to do that, but ultimately I chose not to. Qualified immunity had, been taken away, and I was like, I'm not doing that. And when you carry your own insurance, that's expensive. Qualified immunity is expensive. It is. I'm sorry, the insurance that you have to carry with no qualified immunity, it's worse. And I know that there are still places out there that aren't using qualified immunity insurance. And I don't know if their department is covering it or if they're having to carry it themselves. I don't know. My thought is, for the investigation side is, I would question everything. Looking at the investigation, and just from what I am seeing, I question a lot, because I'm not involved in it, but I am questioning everything, just because there's some stuff that doesn't add up. It really doesn't. I think that these recent pictures coming out where he's at a Dairy Queen wearing like half and half of what he changed into and what he changed out of or whatever, the burgundy shirt and the blue jeans. Yeah, I've seen those and I'm like, that's odd, and it makes me wonder, like, okay, this dude's like a 15-17 minute drive from the college at like 6 o'clock after and yes, he could have walked it. He could have walked it. I used to walk way further. I don't know. I just think it's weird. So if I think it's weird, it's probably weird to others. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that, I know everything. I know enough that maybe something weird's going on with the investigation. Outside of that, I can't really say. The stuff with, the media and some of the crazy things I've heard, I'm just like, what is wrong with you? I can honestly say I remember when the media did their best not to lie to you. Now it doesn't feel like that anymore. It feels like that, they're going out of their way to lie and twist it to, you know, make you lean one way or another. I don't know how that goes now. It's not a smart thing for, I mean, if you have a very specific base and you're catering to that, sure, okay. But I don't remember when I was growing up. I grew up in the, you know, I was born in 83. So from when I was like 7 or 8 and like actually kind of paid attention to the news a little bit, to about the time I was 14, 15 years old, and started seeing weird things in the media, in the news, specifically because, you know, Facebook wasn't a thing until like 06, and that was the same year I joined the Navy. So that was a long time ago. I've been out for 8 years, and you know, I was 23 when I joined the Navy, in 06. So the whole thing's it's weird to me. I will say that it is weird to me. So when you're looking at a whole ass situation where you have, I've been out for 9 years. Jesus. No, it's been 8 years since I got out. I was thinking about, never mind. Whatever. ADHD. It's a thing. Where the media started, you know, really just full on out lying to people, and not being held accountable for said lies. That was not a thing when I was a kid. Because if you found out that a dude was lying in the news, that dude got fired. Yes, Jimmy Kimmel got fired for saying some crazy shit. You know, saying it was somebody on the right. Sure, if you think that because you wouldn't rebel against your parents at all, and just, you know, regurgitate whatever they told you, fine. Yeah, he was on the right, but he went to college, lived with, you know, his roommate or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. I don't even know. I just know that he had a very different opinion than what his family did. And I'm not going to say he was left or right. I don't know, until, you know, there's more known about him. I can say that it looks like he's on the left. I don't think that he was holding up very, you know, Christian, you know, conservative values, because he went out there and shot somebody who was sitting there and just wanting to have a conversation with people. He, in my personal opinion, dude is not well. He was so hurt by words that he decided he was gonna end somebody's life. I don't think that he was well. So, I remember hearing that, you know, his dad was a cop and his family was, you know, very involved in, you know, church and whatnot. I remember when I rebelled against my family, it was not, you know, me being super Christian and wanting to go to church. It was me wanting to go, you know, drink and chase women, which I did. And, you know, I don't think that his values were that of anybody on the right that I could tell. My very first, you know, election that I was able to vote in, I voted right. I voted Republican. I you know, was a registered Republican. As I got older, I started, you know, understanding, you know, in a society, you have to be able to, look at things objectively and not be told what to think. You have to think about what your values are and apply them. I'm not right. I'm not left. I'm independent. I think for myself. I don't need somebody else to think for me. That's why I read a lot. Listen to several different news sources just to kind of see what's being said on both sides. Usually, if I'm going to vote on like any sort of like bill or resolution, I read it. I don't know, a ton of people who read the actual bills and resolutions that they're voting on. Unless they're in Congress, and even half the time, they don't. They usually have somebody, read through it and be like, yeah, that's what we do. But from what I understand, I don't actually know what they're doing. I don't. I know what I understand, and reading stuff for yourself is usually your best answer, and I think you should. Usually, if it makes sense, I'll vote on it. But here in the last few years, stuff that comes out of the Democratic Party is kind of weird. They hide stuff that most people wouldn't vote on, but some people do. I don't understand it, but I mean, that's just me. I have a very libertarian take on a lot of stuff. So, do you boo-boo, have fun, enjoy yourself. As long as you're not hurting nobody, I don't give a shit. I really don't. When you're talking about any kind of thing where people are getting harmed by other people's actions, yeah, you're gonna have to do something about that. Outside of that, I like police. I used to be a cop. They're, for the most part, they're good people. I have worked with some dirtbags, and I can guarantee you, people are just generally trying to do the best they can. I said generally. I didn't say always. And nobody hates a dirty cop more than a cop. Dirty cops make everybody else look terrible. And I can't say that, every cop I've ever worked with hasn't done something shitty. I can say I am very proud to have worked with the men and women I have worked with. I worked at the sheriff's office here when I was younger, before I joined the military. Actually, the undersheriff, he was my FTO when I was, first in the first working there. Him and a couple others. And one night it was community corrections, where we were in charge of the people who were doing work release and whatnot. One evening we were sitting there having a conversation. It was me, the undersheriff, and another gentleman. I believe he became the sheriff of Price, Utah, or it's not Price. It's a smaller town near there. I want to say it starts with an H, but I can't think of it. He became the sheriff there, or police chief. I'm not 100% which, because I was already in the military when all that happened. But they were talking to me, and they asked me to spell escape. I'm dyslexic and I have ADHD, and I wasn't 100% positive on how to spell the word escape. So I don't remember if they wrote me up or if they counseled me. I don't know exactly what it was, but they were talking to me. They're like, you need a lot more experience. And that's what put the military in my mind, is that I need experience. Because I wanted to be in law enforcement. I wanted to do those things. But after doing it for, 10 years in the military, I liked my first job. I liked my second job, or my first duty station and my second duty station. When it came time to actually do base police, after doing, other things that I thought was more important, I was like, I never want to be a cop. I was, pulling people over and getting them tickets for speeding or, expired registration. To me, that's not as important as what, I was doing before, where I was doing mobile security and I can't even talk about the first thing because I don't really know what to say about it. I mean, I worked with Marines. They were great. They were some of the coolest people I got to work with. I also learned while I was in the military, while honesty is great, not everybody wants to hear the whole truth. And I found that out very, very early. I've been to Captain's Mast or NJP or Article 15, whatever you want to call it. I went to Captain's Mast because I fell asleep standing up. So yes, I've been in trouble in the military. I didn't know you could fall asleep standing up. Apparently you can. And went through the whole process. Took my licks, I think I got 45 days of restriction, 45 days of extra duty. They didn't do the half month's pay times 2, but they could have, because I did fall asleep, and that was technically dereliction of duty. But I was standing up. It wasn't like I laid down and actually, was intentionally going to sleep. It was just me standing there, waiting around. I only had like 15 minutes left on post before, we got relieved for chow. And I just went out. Wasn't trying to. I just dozed off. It happened. I owned it. Told the, lieutenant colonel that I was, that was my commanding officer. I was like, should not be a reflection of my leadership at all. This was on me. This is my fault. I did this. So I own all of the responsibility of my actions, and I'm not putting this on them at all. And then he was like, well, he's like, I have one question for you. You gonna do it again? I'm like, nope, never doing that shit again. I didn't say it like that, but I was like, no, I'm never going to do that again. And he said, you know what, Mr. Herman, I believe you. I'm dropping charges. So we're going to give you a negative counseling and have a nice day. And that's all that happened. So when I look at all the things I did in the military, and that was my first duty station. That was my very first command. I learned that I should just be honest all the time. Never hide nothing. Don't do that. I lost a radio once. Well, I didn't lose it, but I was the armor, so I was responsible for it. I think it fell off. We were doing, embarked security on a ship, and it just fell off the side and went in the ocean, and sent up the the thing. I got yelled at on the phone. I'm like, what do you want me to do? You want me to dive for it? It's in the middle of the Indian Ocean. I ain't doing that. I'm not a diver. Things happen. Be honest about it. Tell the truth. It's not that detrimental. Yes, it sucks. You're going to get your ass chewed. It's fine. You get written up for it. It's easier to tell the truth than it is to lie, because then you don't have to make some shit up to cover that lie. And then the lie to cover up that lie, and then the lie to cover up that lie. It's easier. My kids, for the most part, they tell the truth. I think I've caught them in a couple of them and lies where I'm like, why would you lie about that? It's so stupid. But I'm at the point now where it's easier to tell the truth. And watching the media lie about everything is gross. It's hard. It's hard to look at. And then there's people like Hassan Piker. Jesus. I don't understand why. I don't understand why you would do or say the things he says. I don't understand it. That's not one, like, where are your ethics and morals? I don't understand them. So like, maybe I just need to sit down and have a conversation with him. I don't know, but I don't understand his thought process and his ethics and morals. I don't. But from what I've seen, I'm just like, yo, that is, I wouldn't have said that. I mean, I wouldn't have. I mean, first off, I wouldn't have called for, the killing of a sitting senator, or I'm sorry, a former senator, Rick Scott. I wouldn't be saying, watch the blood of, landlords fill the street. I don't see why. But we're getting way off topic. Basically what I'm saying is that the things that are being said in the media and in the FBI and throughout the investigation, some shit just isn't making sense. It's not adding up right. I've looked at several different angles of this. I'm talking about the shooting itself. I don't see how there could have been another shooter in the shot placement of the round. I don't see how there could have been another shooter. Maybe something, really kinky's going on, but I don't see it. So that's why I don't understand the stuff that's being said from the FBI, and why the investigation kind of looks funky. Stuff with the media, they're there to score points politically one way or the other. I don't care. I don't watch the media. I have had to watch the media here recently for context of making videos for you guys. Outside of that, I really can't say there's a ton of stuff there. So I don't understand why things are being said so wonky. On my personal belief is this kid is crazy. And I hear this thing about him being radicalized, and he may very well have been, but to me, he just looks like a sick kid. I'm not going to say that he's some sort of hero, because he's definitely not. I would definitely say that he's turning into some sort of folk hero to certain people, and to hear people cheering for the death of Charlie Kirk, that is sick. I don't know how you can look at a human being killed and thinking that's okay. I don't see it. I mean, maybe they're sick. I don't know. I remember reading in the DSM-5 that, all these different things can be sicknesses, and transgenderism was a sickness and it still is, as far as I know. I get that people want to live the life they want to live, because first off, I want to live the life I want to live. I want to, be here in my family's home. I want to hang out with my kids. I want to, drink a beer here and there. I want to, go shoot guns. I want to make videos, talk about stupid shit on the internet. That's kind of and I get that other people want to, live the life they want to live. That's fine. I have no problem. As long as you're not hurting nobody, I don't care. It's when you start to try to make other people believe your nonsense. That's sick. I have lots of gay family members. My father, he was a gay man. Still the best man I know. I know that people have different lifestyles, and that's perfectly acceptable. I have a lifestyle that I know my family doesn't approve of. I have a tattoo on my face. My mom hates it. But I didn't do it for her. I did it for me. The tattoo on my face, it means family protector. It's a Nordic rune stave, and it means I'm going to protect my family at all costs. I will not ever feel bad about putting the things I want to put on my body. I have several tattoos, and that's what it is. I didn't do it for anybody else. I did it for me. I don't care about other people's opinions when it comes to the choices I make. My aunt, one of my aunts, she just recently saw it in person. I don't think that she'd ever seen it before. And when I got to, I was borrowing her horse trailer and her truck, and walked in. She looked at it. She's like, "Oh, that's on there permanent." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that ain't coming off." I told her what it means, and she's like, "Okay." I mean, yeah, it is what it is. I'm not here to make everybody happy. The only thing I'm responsible for is the words and actions that I, say and do. I'm responsible for making sure my kids eat every day. I'm responsible for making sure they're dressed. I make sure that they have a roof over their head, that they're healthy, happy, I can't say happy. They're healthy, well taken care of. I can't take too much, responsibility for their happiness, because they make themselves happy. And I really mean that. They make themselves happy. I'm just an idiot who talks shit on the internet. My kids are great. My family, I didn't realize I had like a rare family until I joined the military and got away. And man, hearing people talk about their families and like how they've not spoke to family members in years, that's hard. I'm like, I don't know that I could go that long without talking to my brothers. I just can't do that. I can't go that long without talking to my mom. My aunts and uncles, yeah, it's a little easier because, we're not always around. They're not always around, or, they live pretty far off. That's not done out of spite. It's just done out of like, whatever. And I have this weird thing being ADHD. It's called object permanence. If I don't see it, it doesn't really exist. And that's hard for people to understand. And it happens with people. Like my grandpa who lives in Oklahoma. I don't call him and I don't talk to him because I don't think about him that often. It's not done because I don't love him. It's just, I'm kind of in my own world. I don't think about him. Now that I'm thinking about him, I probably should call him. That is my honest belief. You should be able to live the life you choose. Should people have an opinion on it? Probably not. But I also know what's in the Bible, because my father was a very strange gay preacher. He wasn't very strange. Well, I mean, he was, but I loved him, so he was my strange dude. But it's strange to be able to say he was a gay preacher. Knew he was gay, when he was little bitty. Knew that he didn't think, the same way his family did. And so he hid. And met my mom, thought that she was sent to cure his sickness. And I was like, I don't really think you're sick, Dad. That you are who you are. That is all that can be said about it. My mom knew. They stayed married until my baby brother moved out of the house, and that was that. They got divorced. They both married different people, but they were still really close before my dad passed away. My dad will tell you, or would tell you, that my mom was his best friend, and they still talked. But my dad and mom have both told me that they miss having that close of a relationship because they moved out and had their own lives. But they loved each other. It was what it was. My dad got married to a great gentleman, and I love my dad's husband. I don't talk to him as much as I should, and he just lives down the way from us. I honestly believe that you should live the life you want to live. You shouldn't, judge other people for the life that they choose. My dad would always, say, pray for, whoever or whatever. I don't believe that way. It's none of my fucking business. Why would I even bother? If it's my family members who have specifically asked me to pray for whatever situation, I'd do that. But I'm not like super churchy, but I know the Bible pretty well because my dad and I had conversation. My great uncle, that man, and my dad, they were the only two people that I knew the Bible better than most people, out there. So whenever I had questions, I'd ask. Or if I had comments, I'd ask. I have a belief that I had a better, moral compass based on my education growing up. After my son passed away, I didn't talk to God for a year. 2 years. I think it was 2 years. And I still have issues with that. I have a lot of Norse pagan beliefs now, just because that I don't understand how the Bible, some written by several different people, can be the Word of God. Not that it isn't. I'm just saying I don't understand it. For the most part, I have a better education with the Bible than most. At one of my duty stations, they called me preacher, and I wasn't a preacher. People would ask me what's in the Bible, and I'd tell them. They'd ask, "Hey, what does the Bible say about this?" And I would tell them. And it's not necessarily because that was like my whole belief, but when I was a kid, we read the Bible. Outside of reading the Bible, I didn't read a lot growing up. I didn't start to enjoy reading until I was well into my 20s. I'd read books here and there. And one of my favorite books is still my favorite book. I mean, my favorite book from when I was young was still my favorite book now. And I read it every couple of years just because I like it. It's Count of Monte Cristo. So I love that book. It's a great book. So, to sum up everything is there's weird stuff going on in the world, and I can't tell you what you should or shouldn't believe. Look into it. It's the best thing I could tell you. outside of that, you can't drink all day unless you start in the morning. And have a good one.